And we're live. Welcome back to another episode of the iFilmmaker podcast. My name is Ariel Martinez, and we have a very exciting episode for you guys. But before we get to that, I just want to remind you guys that we are live on YouTube channel over at iFilmmaker on the iFilmmaker YouTube channel. Make sure that you're subscribed and you're notified every time we go live. If you're not getting those notifications, it's because you're not subscribed and you didn't turn on that little bell to get notified every time we go live. But anyways, I want to just jump into today's episode because it is very exciting. We have the one and only JP Morgan on the show from The Slanted Lens. How are you, JP?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Great. I'm so glad I was able to get you on the show. We met at NAB. I saw you, very recognizable face from all your YouTube channels, and man, it was so exciting to meet you and get connected with you.
Well, it's fun to be at NAB. It's fun to be at NAB and bump into people that know what you do. My daughter calls me an F-list celebrity. She goes, not an A-list, not a B-list. You're an F-list celebrity. There are a few people that know who you are.
Is that what the F is for a few people?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the few people.
That's awesome. Speaking of NAB, did you see anything over there that caught your attention? How many years have you been going, and how have you liked it?
Well, I've been going to NAB for years now as a still photographer in the beginning. I graduated from Art Center College of Design in still photography, started a still business, but quickly moved into doing video production because I did such large set production still work. And so the minute you get involved with video, you want to go to NAB. And so I've been going to NAB for a long time. I think, interestingly enough, what I thought was one of the most interesting products there was this new, and I don't say it right, it's like Alphas time-lapse camera. Just a little $389 time-lapse camera that'll do long-term time-lapse. And it's just like, it's a GoPro of time-lapse. And I got one from them, and I've been using it out on a site here, just checking it out. And it's pretty amazing little camera. I'm going to use it to do an episode on our channel. I'm going to use it. I mean, it's just I'll send a link so you can see it.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with them. It was amazing. Not a sponsor or anything. I just thought it was a cool camera. But
define long term.
Months.
Wow.
Yeah, if you want to do something long term, we're talking like a construction site, or you want to see the snow melt away, or you want to see, it's really long term time lapse, which has so many great applications, both in the filmmaking world and just in, people want to do interesting things for their own applications, with regards to I'm repainting my house, or I'm building, restoring a car, or, it's just really interesting things. Anyway, I thought that was a neat product and interesting. Kind of reminded me that when I was there when GoPro first came to NAB, and I stood in that line and went halfway around the convention center to get my first GoPro. And it was a pretty hot item from the get-go. So.
How many years ago was that? GoPro's been around for quite some time now.
Yeah, it's probably 7 or 8 years ago at least that happened.
Very nice. Now, speaking of video and photography, you have your YouTube channel, which is actually the first time I kind of seen your stuff. The Slanted Lens. It's a very popular YouTube channel. Every time I need to go and purchase a new lens or a camera and whatnot, it seems like you guys are giving out some great information on your channel. How did that start, and how did you get into the whole tutorials and reviewing lenses and whatnot?
It was kind of quite by accident, really. I've shot forever. I still have a production company. We still shoot. That's what I do. That's my main job. I mean, an educator on YouTube is not my main job. I'm still shooting video and stills all the time. And so I was on set one day with an art director, and he said, there's this new thing called YouTube out there, and you ought to put a video up showing people how you work, because your setups are so elaborate. They're so cool. He said, and then other art directors can go, hey, I like working with this guy. He's decent to be around. He's fun on set. They get an idea what you're like when you're working on set. So I put a couple of them up. All the guys over at F-Stopper showed us a lot of love in the beginning, and it just kind of became, the Slanted Lens in the beginning was nothing more than what I was doing each week. We would just do videos on what we were shooting, what we were thinking about, what we had to conquer, the problems we were facing. That's really where it came from. So
wow. And so going to your production, so again, you started because there was a demand that people wanted to learn more about that. How long has the Slanted Lens been, I guess, a official channel now on YouTube?
Probably 8 years or more. You know, it was pretty casual in the beginning. I would post when
Right.
we shot something, you know, but we now post every Thursday. But in the beginning, it was more casual. You know, it
I think
wasn't
that's
my
how.
main.
Right. I think that's how a lot of YouTube channels start in that sense.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely helped me make some very important decisions regarding gear. Um, Tell me about, so do you do some video work, or do you mainly focus on photography?
You know, I tell people I have a love relationship with both those things. I shoot still photography all the time and I shoot video all the time. And when I shoot one for a while, you know, I'm going, yeah, I'd like to shoot some video. When I go back to shoot video, I'm going, oh, I just love doing this. It's so fulfilling. It's so interesting. And then after done that for a while, I go back to a still shoot and I go, oh man, I just love doing this, you know? So I really love both those worlds. I love them both. I really do. I love filmmaking. I love doing still photography. It's definitely my passions.
I gotta say, I really do love. I love taking pictures. I love taking stills. It's a lot of fun. And compared to video, and I offend my friends all the time when I tell them this. Like video is definitely harder. Would you say that video would take up a lot more time? It's a lot more intricate in that sense. It's hard to say that though, and we're gonna get into this. It's hard to say that after I've seen your work though. When I've
Yeah,
seen your work,
it's
when I
all
see your
relative.
when your sense, I'm like, wait a minute, something completely different here. But no, I tell my friends that do not do the work that you do, obviously. But I tell them, guys, you have it easy, first of all. But anyways, um, would you say that, I guess for you, video is tougher, or like you mentioned, is it relative in that sense? It depends on the jobs that you're doing.
It depends on what you're doing. My still photography is definitely not easier. And that's part of the reason I started doing videos, because we built such large sets and such complicated still images that it just, the next step was natural for the client to say, well, can we shoot a short commercial on this? Can we shoot a 15-second piece on this? But video has more moving parts. It takes more people a lot of times to get a
Hmm.
really good video. You know, it's a much more difficult process to be a one-man band. You know, whereas still photography, you can get away with being a one-man band in a lot of ways. Although
Really?
it depends on what you're doing. My large set production work, we have 8 and 10 people on some of those still images shoots, you know, and I don't run them much different than I do our video shoots when I shoot commercials. So
Wow.
very similar crew sizes, but this is really large set production still photography, and it's not lifestyle. You know, if I shoot something lifestyle for Vanguard, one of my clients, I'll just go out with a camera and an assistant with a reflector and a model, and we walk around, we shoot, and that's fun. You know, it's easy. Uh,
Right.
but you're now concentrating on the image. You've got to capture everything in one single image. You know, you've got one image to communicate your entire experience, and then I think that's more difficult. You don't
Mm.
have the luxury of here's 8 and 10, 20 shots to tell my story. You got to tell your story with one shot, you know, and
Man.
that in and of
And
itself is difficult.
I've seen those one shots that you're talking about. It's incredibly detailed and thought out. You can see the amount of work that goes into all that stuff just by looking at it. And by the way, for those of you listening, we're going to have a lot of these images posted on the show notes for this episode over at iFilmmaker.tv. Make sure you go and catch that. Um, I want to go into, I guess, your thought process behind any one of these images, because you can look at one and then look at the next one. It's not like they're all related. It's like every single time it's something completely different. Just like, you know, video and me and my job, not every job is the same. There's a full thought process behind all of that. So me not having any background to even anything remotely close to what you do, could you walk me through your, I guess, your thought process from, you know, when a client asks for a job, like what does that usually sound like, to what do you start thinking about, and where do you get to?
Well, I'll go back a little ways in this process. I was in love with Norman Rockwell when I was at Art
Mhm.
Center. I just loved his Americana kind of thing, but it was also very bland to me. You know, it was a little
Okay.
too, although I've been to his museum, love his paintings. I also loved Gary Larson's The Far Side. That was more edgy and more fun to me. Just this really weird comedy. You know, a deer standing up with a target, and he goes, "Weird birthmark, Al." You know, it's just really
Mm.
weird stuff like that. So my style became a mixture of Norman Rockwell meets The Far Side. And so it became just this very bizarre world where I'm creating sets in the world when there was no Photoshop. I'm creating sets to conquer physical problems and to communicate this kind of wacky world that we lived in with no photo retouching. So we're building sets on their ends. We're building them upside down. We're building them on their backs. We're building shelves that cut back in to be able to give us perspective. I mean, just doing a lot of weird things. And that kind of became our signature style. We were mailing out a calendar, like 5,000 copies a month to all the art directors in Los Angeles. And they started calling up going, hey, we really love what you do. We really would like to do our shot like this. Like I have a shot of a lady blowing through into a living room. She's holding
I saw
on.
that.
Yeah, we built the set on end.
Jeez.
So she's hanging from the ceiling. Little boy's just literally hanging onto her leg. And then the husband's shoulder is on the floor. And he got his leg looped around a chair so he doesn't fall over. So that shot, we mailed it out. And I redid that shot for Domino's Pizza, for Pizza Hut. I redid it for Land's End. I redid it for, I mean, people would call up and say, we love this shot. Can you do a version like this for what we do? And so our style, it was a very unique style because we were doing an era in still photography of Norman Rockwell, Reed Miles, James Wood, Marty Evans. I mean, these are incredible photographers that I loved, but they just did this hardcore Norman Rockwell stuff. Mine became Norman Rockwell meets The Far Side, this twisted comedy, weird kind of stuff. And so that's where the ideas came from. I keep a sketchbook always. Anytime I see something funny, I see something interesting, I sketch a thought, I write some notes, and I go back to that when I'm looking for ideas and trying to come up with thoughts when I'm doing a shot. I start going back to the sketchbook and just working on some of those ideas. That's really where it comes from.
You said you've been doing these kinds of shoots, these kinds of images since before Photoshop was even a thing.
Yep.
Or before the Photoshop era. How much of Photoshop have you adopted into your work now?
We use it not exclusively, extensively, but I still love to get things as close as I possibly can in one frame.
Sure.
We'll retouch things out. I mean, it used to be we'd have great big metal rods going through the wall and then a little platform that a lady laid on and she's being blown out of the living room. You know, those kinds of things. But now we can put the structures in, we can retouch it out and stuff. I see some online tutorials and they make me laugh, you know, things that I've shot 10 different ways, 100 over the years, you know, and it's like, whoa, look at this, it's brand new.
Yeah, I saw it. I thought it was super unique. It definitely attracted me to just continue going through your entire profile and your portfolio on your website, which is phenomenal. It's phenomenal work. And I love that you're still using practical methods for these images, which is awesome. And I mean, I think it would make anybody think like how much of this is fake, how much of it is real. It definitely makes you wonder all that stuff. So coming into, I guess, from that background of doing pretty much all your effects practically, and now moving into Photoshop, I mean, I'm sure it's made your life, your job much easier, right? Having tools like that.
Oh yeah, it certainly does. I mean, there's so many options, and kind of in that process, we've started to composite more, you know. But even still, I try to get everything as closely as possible in a single shot. But my wife's, she's a world-class retoucher. It's Morgan Photo Retouch. She retouches for Sony and for Fox, and she does a lot of stuff. So I mean, she retouches my stuff. So consequently, I'm not a very good retoucher because she does everything. So in Photoshop, I know my way around, but I'm not amazing by any means. It's not my strength.
You guys make a perfect team.
Yeah, we've worked together for 30 plus years now on set. She produces and does wardrobe. I produce and direct, and so we've done commercials and print stuff and that for years. It's been a great team.
What would you tell someone that it would like to kind of go into that style of photography? Like, how would they even go about something like that?
You know, the only way to go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, because I mean, you come from a long background where you have your history and you started practically, right? I'm talking about somebody starting today.
Well, you know what? where I ended up was and I kind of alluded to that. What I said, where I ended up was kind of where the next step was in what was going on in photography at that time, because you had a lot of lifestyle type. Well, there was no lifestyle at that time. It was these very controlled sets, images, but it was very. Reed Miles was doing these things that were exactly like Norman Rockwell on white and the very overdone expressions. And I mean, so when I started doing what I'm doing, it was like a matter of, well, here's the next step, in that process. So if somebody wanted to get into the market doing those kinds of things today, they'd have to look at where's the market at now and what's the next step. What can I do to add to what's being done today and be able to move it in a new direction? It really was a new direction. I mean, so I had a comic strip in like almost 40 newspapers for 10 years. And it was my single panel funny images with a caption on them. It would run in the Sunday comics back in the day when newspapers were a deal. And I did that for years, and it was a fun experience. The syndicated comic called The Slanted Lens. That's where The Slanted Lens came from.
Very cool. That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And what do you see with? Do you have any thoughts on, I guess, modern day photography? What you've been seeing more and more out there? YouTube's giving tutorials. Where do you see that? I guess. Let me be more specific. Technology has taken us.
I think it's seen a very interesting arc, because when Leslie Decter came out with some of the early Nike ads, and it was like handheld camera, and it was out on the basketball court, and they're slamming the ball, and it was just cool stuff.
Yeah.
But it was a departure from what had been going on, which was built sets on stage, very controlled, very, very, very controlled. Well, what's happened is that sense of real and gritty and gutsy has now taken an arc. It's gotten into everything is lifestyle. Weddings. No one wants a wedding with really formal. They want this kind of lifestyle wedding, But what that means now is, and I was just at Shutterfest, is that, it was anti-strobes, no light, natural light only, But what's happened, and I was at Shutterfest, and it was very obvious to me that as the arc has gone, we've seen that now so much that people are going, okay, I've seen that, and people are starting to use strobes again. They're starting to light again. And the strobes have gotten smaller and lighter, so it's much easier for you to set up. You can carry with a lithium-ion battery, a Godox 200, or a Godox 400, a Baja 400. It's really easy to carry a strobe head around and have light and to create images that start to push you more towards creating imagery and manipulating imagery rather than just natural light, and found imagery. So I think the technology has collapsed itself and made things so much easier. We certainly saw it with video. I used to shoot on these big Panavision cameras, or you had to rent them for, $3,000 a day, and they were $220,000 to buy. And now you get a much better image out of a a camera that'll cost you $30,000. An Alexa Mini's like 30 grand, and it's a pretty amazing camera. So, but you can even go into a DSLR, an A7R3, A7 III. I mean, those are pretty amazing cameras, and you're getting great imagery, and anybody can get their hands on it. So the technology has really made it accessible to everyone. It really has.
Yeah, speaking about cameras, what is your choice of camera, or does it vary by project?
I shoot a huge range of cameras. I have an A7R3. I have an A7 III. I have Mark IIIs. Still have a couple old Mark IIIs. Shoot on the C200 a lot for doing video things. C200 RAW is probably one of the most beautiful images ever. I really feel like it is. And you can get a 12-bit 422 out of it. I mean, it's just a great Kodak and but you got to shoot RAW. You got to have a lot of cards.
You need a lot of storage.
But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous picture, a gorgeous image. It really, truly is.
You're gonna make me go broke now, JP. Come on. Anyone that listens to the show, they knows that I'm a gearhead. So the more I think about cameras, man.
The two new Panasonics that are coming out are the specs that you can get video specs off from those two cameras are astounding. I mean, you're
talking about the S1?
What's that?
The S1 and the S1R?
Yes. I mean, the S1 is more, it's really more towards video. The S1R is like a bigger
Right.
megapixel, made more for stills and video, but
Much more expensive too.
much more expensive. But the S1, you're getting a 10-bit 422 out of that camera, which, you know, up until now has been pretty hard. You got it on the GH5, but it's on that Micro Four Thirds. This is a full frame.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we have some amazing stuff coming. Canon's going to have to move a little bit and give us a little more.
I've been seeing that. I've been seeing that Canon definitely has been falling behind, but that's been happening for so long.
Yeah.
I've always was. I mean, I think it's no secret. Canon is a photography company, right? But I think what's been happening more, and correct me if I'm wrong if you've seen this before, but I think what's been happening a lot is that a lot of photographers have been getting requests for video. So a lot of photographers have been kind of trying to start learning to do video. But if you're shooting on a Canon, which is a phenomenal photography camera, kind of limited with the modern day video era, you know? So, I mean, you mentioned that you're shooting on the Sony A7R. You're in a Sony brand and you still have some Canons. But that wasn't always the case because Sony Alpha cameras have been around for just a few years.
Yep. Well, Canon is just so surprising to me because with the Mark II, they introduced this idea that we're going to give you a full frame camera and a DSLR body that you can shoot video on. And it was like revolutionary, you know, it was awesome, you know, let alone the fact that it really wasn't very sharp and there's all kinds of issues with it, you know. But the whole issue was, and then what they do, they started to protect themselves. They started to not give the market what it wanted. They started to try not to compete with their cinema line. So they started to dumb down what they're giving in that lower end line. And then Sony comes along and gives you an A7S, which is an incredible camera with low light capabilities. And so Sony's kind of, that's why I use Sony's. It's a much better camera. The specs are great. I actually like the picture, you know. Canon's a little orangish, Sony's a little greenish, you know, and you can correct either of them if you know what you're doing color, but yes, that's why I think just the market has really, they've responded to the market. Sony has a little better, and that's why they're doing so well.
No, definitely, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right, and I've just been hearing that from every which angle. I have my photographer friends asking me, you know, to kind of give them some tips and how to do video, and you know, and it's a demand thing, you know. So you're gonna need cameras that can do both.
Yep,
definitely gonna need that.
I have never talked to a still photographer who's shooting at all with any regularity that they don't tell me they've been asked to do video. I just, it doesn't exist because clients are there and they're going, hey, first off, they know that most of the cameras can do it. And secondly, they want it because everything on the internet is about video now. You don't want to read a bunch of, 3 paragraphs and have a picture. You want a 3-minute video that tells you the story. So photographers really need to understand and do video, but not lose content, really not lose touch with still photography and kind of the foundation. Photographers make great videographers because they know how to tell a story in a single frame. They know how to light and to set up a frame. Their biggest challenge is movement. It really is.
Let's get into that a little bit. I think that's very important to kind of understand that, because I feel the same way in the opposite direction, though. Like, I feel that also videographers, no photographer, in my opinion, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. In my opinion, I think that if you're already a videographer and you've been doing it for so many years, photography would come easier for you, rather than if you're a photographer going into video would come a lot more difficult to kind of learn, because now you're adding a lot more elements in terms of, like you said, movement. Audio is a huge one, probably one of the most important one, and you know, things like that. And then it comes to the editing of the actual video, the animation, like the text, like it's just so much to learn. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, it's interesting because I tell people, photographers who are making this crossover, and that is that, you know, find what your strengths are, focus on your strengths, and then hire people. You know, how hard is sound? Will you work for $200 today? Well, that's how hard it was. You know, problem solved, on to the next problem. You know, it's like, I don't stress about the things you don't know in the beginning. With time,
Right.
you'll pick up
Yeah.
those things. You'll become, as you're around it, you're going to
Hmm.
become more, comfortable with it. You'll be able to do more of it yourself. But in
Yeah.
the beginning, focus on what you can do. And, although most photographers do get stuck with a place where people are going, I need you to make this video, and it's a one-man crew or there's two of them. So you do need to understand sound. It is a hard transition.
Yeah.
But most photographers, when they start out, are not going to start out doing everything right down to the edit and the all the titles and the color
Right. Of course not.
and delivery. So you just find people to fill in for you to do those
Sure.
things, and you can find good people leaving the university that have pretty strong skills,
Yeah.
going to help you make that transition. So I'm not a great editor. I edited on Premiere. I learned on Premiere when Premiere was cool, before Final Cut was cool, before Premiere became cool again. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've also been asked to do some stills in the middle of a job, but mostly it's like, so I don't promote myself as a photographer at all, like at all. All the stills that I take are for family events, my church. I'll take a few stills there, but and I love it. It's fun. It's fun. It's a nice change. But every now and then I do have clients that say, hey, do you do pictures? And I mostly do it as a sure, I'll do it just to kind of make them happy and kind of sort of lock in that job, and I'll say, all right, you know what, I'll throw pictures in there. I'll get some stills for you. So that's more of how I approach it. But I don't. I think calling myself a photographer would be offensive to people like you, like the real photographers. So going back to, I guess, photography and kind of the way you do your job, what kind of elements do you consider when trying to tell a story? Because now here's the thing, I have, let's say, 60 seconds to tell a story. It's going to be a lot easier for me to tell a story in 60 seconds than you have in one still image. Yeah. So what elements do you consider when telling a story? And I know that that's a very broad question. I know that there's a lot of things that you have to know, like so for example, if you're getting hired for any major job, like what things do you need to know from the company for you to start moving to do your job?
Well, if you're doing it commercially, there's a pretty simple list, not simple, but a pretty obvious list of things you need to know. Okay. You need to know what their brand goals are. Okay. What do they want to accomplish? What do they want to show? What's their desire? You also pay really close attention to brand colors. You don't go on to a Coke set and you make the entire set blue. It's just, that's a bad idea, because
that's a Pepsi.
Yeah, that's a Pepsi color, and you don't take them boards showing blue sets and blue, you get into colors that are analogous and they're going to work in that red world. And they have to be red, but are going to feel comfortable in that red, warm world, if you're talking to Coke. So you look at colors and also demographics. Those are always the key things. What are their goals? What are their colors? What are their demographics? And then you put together a team of people to kind of get all those things together for you, as far as the talent that's going to communicate that correctly. When I do this for myself, I look at, what I want to communicate, this thought. I want to have this feeling. I want to have this experience. And I try to break it down to very simple elements. I try to keep it graphic. I try to have a model that's going to tell my story for me. I want the right dress on her. I want the right makeup. I want the right props, in the right location, at the right time of day, So it's not a casual thing. Well, hey, let's run out and get this at 10 o'clock this morning. No, it's like, I will go to look at the location. I'll look at the light 2 or 3 times at that location and say, we really have to be out here about 6 o'clock. That's when it's going to look right. Or we can do this in the morning. It's going to look great in this, or we're just going to shoot this straight at night. Let the sun go down. We'll set our own light, and this location is going to look fabulous. So it's about the right model, right clothes, right location, simple elements. I try to keep things to 4 to 5 simple elements. A grove of trees is extremely busy unless you get them into one line that cuts the horizon. Now they become one element. A field of grass can be one element if it's handled correctly. So you try to take the elements you're dealing with and combine and try to reduce them down to 3 to 5 very strong single elements, and then your imagery is going to communicate much more effectively. It's going to be much stronger. It's going to have a stronger design sense.
Hmm.
And now in those 5 elements, you got to try to communicate. What are you trying? What's your story? And I always think, so what's the story that got us here? And now where's this going to go? So if I can think about what's going to get us here, why is this person standing here? What's going on in their lives? What's happening? And then if I can think about, well, where does this go after this moment? And if I can somehow give some elements in there that show a before and an after, then I start to feel like the image has a lot of depth and has a lot of longevity. It has the ability to really communicate on a deeper level. Then there's just the comedy stuff I do. And a lot of times I'm thinking with those large set comedy things, I just want people to laugh.
Mm.
I want this to be funny. When I hang 10 butts on the wall at a proctologist's office, it's because I've sat in proctologist's office because I had colitis thinking, who does this for a living, man? So,
man.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, hey, the more the merrier, I say. That's a lot of great information right there. Man, there's a lot of things to kind of unpack. Like I feel like there's so many threads there that I would love to to pull on. There's a lot of elements. How do you handle it? It seems like you get the composition just right on all your shots. How do you I mean, obviously composition is probably one of the most important parts in your job. You don't want any one corner to look very crowded, but yet you do that so well. So how do you, I guess, consider that in your work with regards to composition and all the elements that you have to put in there?
Well, I've always been about trying to create the image, and even if it's on location, I try to create the image. I'll bring in things. I'll add elements to try to simplify things. I use smoke a lot, try to give us a simpler look to things. If I've got a huge, busy background, throw a layer of smoke up there and let it fog in, and now that becomes just a layer of depth, and it simplifies the entire image. So, and when I do my large set production stuff, it's about building the design into the shot. You are really literally building the set. And so I sketch it. I'll look at colors with Jolene as we're looking at paints and things. And then we will paint and look, and we want everything. Everything's got to be considered as far as how it's going to fit into the design. And then you got to make sure your people fit into that as well. If I've got a short set with a really, because we're foreshortening it, I'm not going to put an 8-foot person in there. I'm going to get a really short person in there to give me that same perspective. Or I may have a really tall person to really emphasize the depth as well. So it's just all those things. It depends on the shot. It's just a lot of things to look at. And you know what I can honestly say? And I tell people this when I coach. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching for people to get them into still photography or video.
Okay.
People, you know what? The first time you shoot an image is like, great job. That sucks. Okay, shoot it again. Because I can tell you honestly, the beginning of my career, I must have shot some of these images 2 and 3 and 4 times. And I'm going, wow, I just can't get it. Until finally I started getting it. And then my averages started to go up, as I would reshoot things. And I found always when I would reshoot something, I learned more the second time than I ever learned the first time. The first time is about, well, are the props all here? Is the person here? We go, okay, let's get a picture. Then you look at it afterwards, going, what am I thinking? What? Why? That's wrong. He's the wrong person. That dress is terrible. Man. Oh, it looks awful. So redo it, and it looks so much better the second time.
You should almost expect to have bad stuff, right? Like you should kind of get that out of the way off the bat. Like the more bad stuff you do, the better your work is going to get, because you're going to learn what not to do next. Yeah, I had a recent episode on my 5-Minute Friday segments. It's called Failing Up. So failing up, basically the whole premise is like, you're going to suck, but what you do after that is, just because you take a bad image, just because you make a bad video, anything bad that happens, you mess up the audio. Now, next time, you know what not to do, and so I think that's a huge aspect in anybody's career, is to not get discouraged when things like that happen. You should almost expect it. It's very rare for anybody to just off the gate just go and be a phenomenal photographer or phenomenal videographer. It's rare. Those people are like savants when it's good naturally like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not that.
No, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes dedication. It takes learning the knowledge, getting all the resources that you have on hand, and just putting it to practice. I think it's a great lesson for anybody, to whether they're getting into photography or photography or cinematography, videography, whatever it is that they want to do, and basically anything in general, really, just anything, whether it's creative, business wise, anything. I want to talk about you mentioned all the people that you have in your shots. Do you host like a casting call? How does that work? How do you pick the right person?
Yeah, no, we do casting calls all the time.
Yeah.
So we're looking for a certain person. We use LA Casting. You know, we use
Okay.
the casting agencies here in Los Angeles, and so we'll just send out a call, you know, and say we're looking for the person this age, this type of look. You know, back when I was doing my comical stuff, I just loved character actors. So anybody I'd bump into at the mall or people that live next door, you know, I would get a picture of Polaroid back in those days, but kind of keep a book of models that you see. Instagram is a great place to find talent these days. If you're really working Instagram and you start to connect with other talent in your area, then you just go there and start looking at, hey, this person looks fabulous. You know, maybe I'd like to work with them, or this, you know, it just really becomes an easy way to find good people. But yeah, you have to find the right people.
Speaking of Instagram, how has, I guess, social media helped put your work out there more? Because before you mentioned that you were mailing out calendars and you had like 5,000 calendars or something like that that you had to print out. How has technology helped ease that?
You know, it's interesting because I feel like it's gone a full circle, because when I said we mailed out 5,000 copies of calendar, we didn't do it once a year. We sent out January's calendar in December for January. So the month before, we would send out one page, January. And so we mailed out 12 times a year because I wanted them to remember who we were. Or if they hated us, I wanted to make them throw it away 12 times, you know? Like,
that's good. That's good. That's actually really good.
So anyway, in that part, we went from that to, well, you can send an email campaign, or you got your web page, you go an email campaign, and I think the market's come completely full circle. If you want to get recognized, mail stuff out again. You know,
wow. Okay.
Absolutely. Art directors don't have time enough to sort through all the emails that come. I think people that'll make the investment and create, this is part of the stuff I do when I mentor and coach people. We put together great campaigns they can send out, and just they get recognized very easily, because I think Instagram and email campaigns to agencies are pretty strong areas right now.
That's interesting. And this is for, I mean, obviously it's for photography, because videography, how would you, you're only promoting yourself as a photographer, right? Your agency.
If you're doing stuff for photography, but you know what, for video, you can do a single image, or you do 3 shots on a card that starts to tell a story, and it's see our video work, and you get people going, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. I should check that out. You know, I still think there's a way to send printed material out, and it stands out now because no one's willing to make the commitment to do it. You know, it's expensive, and although it's gotten to be pretty reasonable, some of these online printing companies like Print Runner and all these, it's pretty easy to get inexpensive cards, but you got to find a mailing list. You got to make got to mail it out. But I still think it's worth doing. So.
I think that's very interesting that still works. I'm usually of the opinion of a more modern age where everything's basically digital, and you find yourselves in directories and all that stuff. But I mean, that stuff could work too. I don't see why not. But I find that very interesting that you're still promoting yourself that way.
Well, it's still, we want to be on Instagram. We want to have a presence in those kinds of areas as well, because there's a lot of return in that. There's no doubt about it. But if you're going to try to take on agencies and really work on that level where you're working with art directors and agencies, art buyers really is where you're going after at agencies, I think it still is successful to send printed pieces out. It truly is. It's not going to work for if you're a wedding photography place, you know, although there could be some interesting applications of, every time a bride, books whatever, a venue, you send them out a card that says 3 of your best wedding pictures on it. It's amazing how those kinds of things don't disappear. People don't want to throw them away. They stay on the table. They get moved. You know, they seem to hang around, and they leave an impression. But
Why
sorry,
why do you think that is?
why they stick around?
Yeah, like why won't they throw away that card?
If it's really nicely done and feels like a piece of art, it feels a shame to throw it away. It really does. I mean, if it's just a glossy card that they see a million of them, looks like junk mail, it's not going to happen, you know. But
the brochure.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I don't know. I feel like if you send a little bound with a piece of twine, 3 or 4 shots, wedding shots you've done, nobody's going to throw that away. You know, it's just going to be like, wow, this person's really cool. This is kind of cool. I don't know what to do with this. I guess I'll lay it on my desk. You know.
Yeah, I'm one of those that if something's interesting, but I'm not willing to kind of commit to paying attention to that right there, I'll just put it somewhere where I have to kind of see myself looking at it later.
Yep. It's like the slowly weaning yourself from it. You don't want to throw it away just yet.
Yeah. I'm one of those. But yeah, I find it interesting. Either way, though, there's no reason why you wouldn't be on social media. I mean, it's free advertising. It's just put it on there. You know, you're not paying for it.
No, you have to do social media. No, I'm not an advocate of not doing social media. I think you have to do it, and you've got to work it hard. I just think there's a lot of other things you can do with it that'll help you move along even faster. So,
no, it seems like you're saying you shouldn't ignore the old ways of doing marketing either.
Yep.
It's still very relevant today.
I know a guy who sent out. Well, this is an old story actually, so it's probably been 6 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But he sent out remote control cars to all the art buyers that he really wanted to meet with in New York City. And
remote control cars.
Yeah, little remote control car, cool looking little car. Now, I think the style of stuff he did was more car type things, you know. Okay. But he didn't send the controller. And he said, if you'll have a meeting with me, I'll give you the controller. I only want 5 minutes of your time.
That's genius.
Yeah. So he said not everyone called him, but he said over 50% did. So he got meetings with the people he sent these to, and it was just a fun thing. I mean, there's a guy here in LA that used to send a box of sand with really high-end sunglasses and a pair of flip-flops in it to all the New York agencies in January. Come and shoot in LA. Sunny here in California, come to LA and shoot. You know, so it's a box of flip-flops and sunglasses, you know, and that was his way of, because my daughter's an art director in New York City. Do you know what art directors do? They're going, okay, we got to get this idea for this product. You know what? I really would love to go to LA. How about a woman on the beach? I mean, they like to travel. I mean, but it's different things get people's creative juices going, you know, and so. Or like, well, I don't know. It's just you conquer problems.
That's a way to stand out from the crowd. You'll definitely get people talking.
Yep.
And that's what advertising is. That's what all these you always see all these at Super Bowl commercials.
Yep.
That's basically all the hype of the Super Bowl every single year these days. It seems like it's just let's see what commercials come out. Let's see their tactic. Let's see what's their pitch. Do you remember the ad? Like things like that. That's advertising.
Yep, it is. Get people talking, shock value on some level. So, you know, I want to jump back to something you said earlier that's really fascinating to me. You said that you have to fail up, and I love that concept. I think that's a great concept, and I'll share a quick thought here. I rock climb. I've rock climbed for years and years, and every piece of safety equipment that you climb with was developed because somebody died.
Oof. Yeah.
And so that sense of you learn to survive, you know, and that failing up, that's and I always reverence that thought every time I use something. I appreciate those who've gone on before, and to not neglect to understand, you know, where the industry's been, and to learn from what's happened before, because it'll help you be better and help you move ahead. Yeah, so I don't know. That's an interesting concept, but
yeah. I was thinking about it of a title for something that I wanted to share, and I had so many stories, and it was a 5 minute. It was a 5 minute Friday. It was scripted. I wasn't. I was testing out the whole scripted thing. I wasn't crazy about it, but I wanted to share a few of the things that I've done, and even at the end of that episode, I started mentioning how I've royally messed up audio, where I've had to reimburse my client, and that sucked. I've completely underexposed images. I've done all these things that would be considered like, why are you even in this industry? Why are you doing what you're doing? Well, if it wasn't because of those things, I would not be where I'm at now. So I've learned, and I learned because even people, like you said, people before me have already tested those things, and they've established this is usually what works. And you know what? We're not done. We're not done in the sense of
No.
we're gonna continue to develop this thing called filmmaking and photography, and we're gonna continue to develop different quote unquote rules, because people have been there. And I to me, that's one of my favorite concepts to understand. And one of the things that I also referenced was so I think it was Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan is one of the concepts is he says, I've taken like 20,000. He said I missed like 20,000 shots. Like 100 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot, and I've missed it, and all these things that he has failed in throughout his career. And then he says, I failed and failed and failed again, and it's because of that I succeed. And it's that thing that just captured me. That whole concept of when you fail, it's not really a failure. It's not really a failure if you learn something. It's a failure if you take it and you just walk away and you never try it again. I think it's something very, very valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how many times have you failed?
Oh, so many times. I've got the same audio story. I've messed up audio before. I did a shoot once for NFL. For the U.S. volleyball team. We shot for an entire week. We had all the volleyball players, and all this kind of stuff. And when we were all done, we shot it all on 4x5 film. And when I looked at all the images, laid them out on light boxes back in the days of film, one of the shots is missing. And to this day, I have no idea where the shot went. I have no idea. And I think what happened was either my assistant opened the film and exposed it, didn't want to say anything, just threw it away, or the film holders weren't loaded. And what I thought we were shooting film, we weren't really shooting film. But from that one experience, I revitalized my entire process. I went through and we had so many checks and balances so that we would know exactly that everything was accounted for. And that was, and we became very, very, very calculated about it. So yeah, I've failed many, many times. And I've done things you think, wow, this is such a great idea. And you look at it going, man, that really stinks. What was I thinking?
I'm right there with you. Oh my gosh, yes. I've shown up to shoots, and you never think about how important the little things are in your productions until you need it.
Yeah.
Like a release plate on your tripod. You show up to a shoot.
I hate stuff like that.
Oh my God, the smallest little thing, the little screw that goes on that release plate. How vital those small things are.
I've got a little kit that has all that stuff in it.
Oh man,
and screws and quarter 20 bolts and cables, and I just like two of everything.
I bought a whole pack of release plates for those Manfrotto heads, which is all I use. I keep one of those everywhere. There's one in my camera bag. There's one in my lighting. There's one in every single pocket of all my cases. And for whatever reason, I missed it. It was that bad. I was so paranoid after that mine stays on my camera, my main camera. But I still keep them everywhere just in case I ever need an extra one. It's one of those things, man.
Well, I can honestly say I have taped my camera on the tripod with a client on set.
Nice.
Because we didn't have a release plate out on location.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there's nothing more embarrassing. Nothing that makes you look more like an idiot.
Oh man, have you ever been on set where you have all your memory cards, but then you realize you're trying to remember if you dumped all the footage from your last shoot, and those are the only cards that you have? Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to retitle this.
Yeah. I go
Retitle
through
this
a process
episode.
where we back up on set to 2 places on set. And then when we get back, we back it up to 2 places at the studio, and then we flush the cards so they don't go back in until they're empty. I can't stand it when I put a card in and there's something on. I'm going, what? You know, it just
Oh my gosh.
because now I'm wondering, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually, that's actually a good one. I have that same process, but even then, I don't format until I'm ready to shoot my next one, just in case. But that's actually, I mean, if your mindset is that of every single card should be empty at the beginning of every shoot, then yeah, that's different.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess that does confuse me because if I'm finishing a shoot at 1 in the morning one night and then I have to shoot the next day at 6 a.m., it's, I mean,
well, I either one of my assistants do it or a lot of times I do it. That's why I bought the Lexar, a little tower that Lexar makes that's got one Thunderbolt 3 and it's got 4 decks in it, and so I can put all my cards in at one time and dump them at once. And sometimes I'll dump them to 2 places and then just go to bed.
Interesting. I didn't know Lexar had that. I have to look into that. And is it only SD cards?
No, the modules, you can hot swap the modules, and they've got every module, you know, everything. So you can put in an SD, compact flash, you know, CFast, it doesn't matter.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just a fast way to download cards quick, you know. So but it's on Thunderbolt 3, so it's and that makes it fast to be able to download multiple cards. But if you drop it in 2 places, it slows your machine down, but it's got all night to do it.
I wanted to ask you something. You know, starting when you started and kind of transitioning over in this modern era of photography and filmmaking. I've always been, and I would like to know your opinion. I've always been of the mindset of, you know, if people don't adapt to new technology, if people are stuck in their old way of doing things, I feel like they'd be missing out a lot, and it would ultimately hurt their business. Do you think that that's the case, or are there exceptions to that? What's your opinion on that?
Oh, I think what you're saying is absolutely true. I did that large set production photography, and then when it all went to lifestyle photography, I had to change what we did. You know, and I mean, I can guarantee you, if you do photography on a very high level, and we were really doing it on a very high end level, national advertising with McDonald's and Lever Brothers, and I mean, it's just as aggressive as you can get. I guarantee you that your style is going to have to change at least 3 or 4 times in your lifetime, in your career. So equipment will help you change. You know, just different perspectives on how people light. You got to really respond to the market. You really have to. And you're right. If you don't stay up with the techniques that are going on, you know, you get lost. You get left behind in a hurry. And this is an industry that you have to adapt to. It's moving and changing all the time.
I've heard stories like that all the time where people are super stuck in their old way of doing things that they feel almost offended that things are easier now because of technology. Like people that use film and they don't consider the new stuff, it's not real art if it's not on film, and that kind of mentality. The lighting that they use, these LED lights, it's offensive to us, and we don't use LED lights. Things like that, where they rather just kind of short circuit a whole building there to continue to use the big old lights. Just things like that, and also, you know, techniques, the gimbals, everything. Like everything has just made our jobs that much easier. Personally, I love it. I love that the advancement of technology has opened so many doors for so many people. And, you know, I mean, it's really up for the taking. I'm of the opinion that there is no excuse anymore. The excuse is not that you cannot buy a camera. These iPhones, these phone cameras are so good these days. I mean, if you're not making stuff now because of gear, that doesn't wash anymore. I'm sorry. Now we can find out who's really into really creating. Like, what's the excuse now? It's really my own way of thinking about it.
You know, I hear you completely on this topic. When people say, "Well, I can't afford a camera," I'm not going, you know what? You're not in. You're just not in.
Heck no.
You know, and it's not important to you. You know, I had one year at Art Center that we bought a Hasselblad and a Cinar 4x5 camera and had no money. And Jolene was working as an art director, and we were barely making the ends meet, you know. And so Christmas comes. We had no money whatsoever for Christmas, like one of those sad Hallmark stories, you know. And so we bought one gift for Christmas. Do you know what the one gift for Jolene and I was for Christmas? The only thing we could afford. And Jolene bought it, a light meter. That was,
oh wow,
because we were all in. This is what we're going to do for a living. You know, we sacrificed everything to be here. It was not something we thought would be cool or, gee, that would be fun to do. We were all in, and we would do whatever it took to be there. And she was in with me all the way. You know, she didn't use a light meter. You know, she didn't get anything for Christmas. You know, but I think that's, when people say I can't afford things, going, my word, stuff is more accessible than it's ever been in the entire history of this business.
Oh man, and and I see it. I started when I started. It was on the T3i, but even then, the Canon, the Rebel T3i, that was considered a really good camera. That was considered a really good camera. Still, obviously, in the consumer side of things, but something that just got me going. It's just something that I was super excited to do either way. And then we moved on to the 7D and whatnot. And oh my gosh, the cameras that are coming out now is just ridiculous. You have small little gimbals that are just the little handheld gimbal from DJI that you can go and be a vlogger if you want to. My gosh.
Yeah.
I
would say it's important to not be on the other end of the scale. People that spend all their time and money buying equipment and don't shoot. You know,
exactly.
It's like, you don't have to change your camera every year. You know, your camera's fine, but are you shooting? Are you creating? Are you, are you really getting out and doing it? Because it doesn't have it. You're a collector at that point, you know. It's a camera collector, and not.
I definitely am guilty of things like that, where like I decided I'm not gonna try and not buy another camera until I create more passion projects. Like, I'm getting great work, and I'm super happy and I'm super blessed with all the work that I get. But I could do all my work with one camera. I don't need every single camera. I have 5 cameras now, 5 video cameras, and it's always like in my head. And I don't share this with people, but in my head, I'm like, man, the image would be so much better with this next camera. So like the C200 or the Ursa Mini 4.6K Pro G2. My God, that name gets longer every time. But those phenomenal cameras, don't get me wrong. But I have it proven to myself that I'm capable of just creating, So, and it's maybe because I've been busy. But yeah, I do admit that sometimes even I do stuff like that. But it's definitely not an excuse. Like, you should be creating regardless of what you have, you know?
Absolutely.
And I'm starting to kind of discipline myself a little bit more now. But yeah, I mean, be honest with yourself. Are you really creating? Are you giving it? Are you trying, or are you just making excuses? And but I'm fully on that side of the line that says that doesn't matter what you have, you should be creating something now. If you're asking me that question, if you're asking me a question which I get all the time on Instagram, what camera? Like, I can't afford a camera. Well, you're texting me, aren't you? You're sending me a message. So you have a phone. That's usually how I respond with that. So you have a phone. So get going. Oh my goodness, I love that. That's an easy response now. I'm sure that wasn't as easy back then. Awesome. Well, Jay, it was so awesome to have. Do people call you Jay or JP?
JP. I go by
JP. I've been saying Jay this whole time, but JP.
Right.
Awesome. It's been so awesome to have you on the show. Where can people find you? I know the Slanted Lens YouTube channel is a very popular channel where you talk a lot about your photography, a lot of gear, a lot of behind the scenes. Can you go ahead and tell me a little bit about all the other stuff that I probably haven't mentioned on the show?
Okay, sure. theslantedlens.com is our website. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there, as well as we post all of our lessons there. Our giveaways are there. We give away stuff every month. We've got a lot of that stuff going on, so you can check it out at theslantedlens.com. Like I say, we have YouTube. We post every Thursday at YouTube. We're posting almost daily on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. There's just a lot of stuff kind of keep up with everything that we're doing. I mean, those are really the main platforms that you can find and see our work at. And so, yeah, we'd love it when people come and join our community group on our Facebook community group. It's pretty active. We have a lot of people showing images and talking about images. We have a great business course. I do a business mentoring class and business course. And you can get involved with that as well if you sign up for our business course. Which if you go to theslanderlens.com, click on the store, you see the business course there. It's probably one of the best values of anything I've ever done. It is expensive in that people have to pay like $280. But once they do that, we give them all of our business materials. And then once a month, I have a live call and everyone calls in. I've got all kinds of people in this, and I still only have 8 or 10 people that call in. It's like a private business coaching class every month. And I mentor people through their businesses and get them going. And that's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that, seeing people grow and be successful.
Did you say $280?
$280. And with that, some people have been on for 2 years now. They call once a month. We have an hour to an hour and a half. And I just answer questions people are facing about their businesses and what's going on. You can hear what other people are doing and get in a sense of what you need to do. And it helps you grow your business. Plus, I have all the materials, the coaching materials, which are very basic coaching materials from this is how you set up your business. This is what it means to be a business. What's an overhead? How do you, all these kinds of things can create all these, just really create your business. But so,
that's fantastic.
That's us. That's Slant and Lens. And my commercial work is JP Morgan, JAYPMORGAN.com.
JPMorgan.com, theslantedlens.com, professional photographer. JP Morgan, thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure this is our first photography episode. We're mostly video production and filmmaking, so I really do appreciate it. Glad I was able to have you on the show. Glad we met, and I do hope that we stay in contact for especially for future episodes and whatnot. So thank you for coming by. For everyone that's listening now, go over to theslantedlens.com. Go and check all that stuff out. A lot of great material and resources coming your way. And thank you, JP, for being on the show.
You're very welcome. It's been great to be here. I think you're doing a great job and a great service to everyone. The things that you share, I think, are extremely insightful. And I think people will benefit from everything you're doing. So thank you for that as well.
Oh, that means a lot coming from you. Thanks, JP.
All right. Well.